So you think the quality of earnings costs too much. So you're thinking about skipping it. Well, let's have a quick conversation. Not just the quality of earnings providers, but the M&A lawyers in this space are telling you you need to do a quality of earnings because it's silly not to. So what I want to introduce you to is a video where I talk to two prominent M&A attorneys about why the quality of earnings is especially important for your first deal, why as a family person there's no reason you should skip this, and why there's a bunch of different arguments for the same thesis, that is, don't be $20,000 smart and $4 million stupid. Here we go.
My mind is still reeling from his comment that over the last year, up to 40+% of deals he's looked at, from his perspective, just absolute blatant fraud in the financials.
Fraud. And I push him on that because I'm like, do you mean fraud? You mean messy financials?
Yeah.
He's like, don't.
It's almost
he's
unbelievable.
Like, no. He's like, yeah, that is a high number, Kevin. That is a high. That should give every searcher
breathtaking
pause to say, I need to be very careful that I don't, as Elliot says, end up in the poorhouse by buying one of these fraudulent deals.
If like shit hits the fan and this deal tanks, like I have to be able to look my spouse in the eye and say, when my house is being repossessed, I did literally everything I could. This was out and out fraud. Like there was nothing I could have done. I don't want to be in the position where I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm not an accountant. I thought I was savvy enough. And I totally missed.
I saved $10,000 on my QOE. They did the bare minimum for what they were paid. I took it and was so happy that they just validated my I'm in love with the deal decision. And now I'm ruined and everybody else in the transaction got paid. Yeah, but I'm looking kids and wives in the house and now we got to go pay off this debt by us working harder. We bought a crater and you were trying to save 10 grand. Last year, about 80% of the deals came out of QOE in a place where even if they were off, like you said, Eric, there was a way to renegotiate it to still get a deal done. It wasn't like maliciously just totally off. This year, 40 to 50% of my deals have been completely fraudulent.
Completely fraudulent.
Completely fraudulent. I'm talking about people adding $1 million of deposits into a bank account, trying to claim it was customers that paid in cash, but there's no invoices.
Say that again for effect. How many?
$1 million worth of cash was deposited into a bank and credited as revenue.
No, what percentage is what?
Yeah, no, I mean the percentage.
40, about 40 to 45% of the deals this year have been fraudulent.
That is mind blowing.
Now, I will say I am not the cheapest quality of earnings provider. So I think that there's some bias there. And I think people who have tough deals are more likely to come my way out of fairness, right? But there's probably been $50 million of purchase price that I've saved people from going to the poorhouse. Like it was completely fraudulent. I had an accountant on a call after he tried to filibuster me and like outlast saying BS on phone calls. And finally he said, you know, we understand GAAP, but we just don't adhere to it here at this company. It was like a $2.7 million EBITDA business that was really throwing off like 1.3.
Wow.
With an adjustment, when we knocked off the first $500,000 adjustment, you know, these fools came with another $500,000 adjustment calling it prepays that they hadn't talked about before. I mean, this crazy stuff is happening.
So they threw,
and these are all people with great brand names on their firms. I had another company where the company was using a company that basically your customer pays this company because they're only going to pay that company in 30 days. You need the money now. It's like factoring. And the factoring company's information did not match the company's information. And on a low EBITDA or SDE business, it was like there were probably 4 or 5 things in the deal that were potential issues that would have been bigger than the whole of the EBITDA that was being purchased.
You have always said, Elliot, one of my favorite lines, which is, I don't know anybody who has $1 million to lose. I don't know anybody who has $1 million to lose, whether you're have 50 million or you got nothing. Nobody has $1 million to lose. You just got to do the right things. Check. And this is going to sound very salesy, you know, and we may be biased. People are going to listen to this and go, you guys are biased. We are, but we've seen the inner workings of these deals over and over and over again. We've lived it out. We've watched good outcomes, bad outcomes. And it's just.
No, I think you're right. But like biased ain't lying. Yeah, we sell services. We've seen it nasty in small business and big business. We've seen people go to the poorhouse. We've seen documents where we wouldn't have caught that thing, that person would have been screwed. I've seen QOEs where if I didn't catch that thing, that person would have been screwed. That their $10,000, $25,000 saved them $5 million of a bad deal, right? So I'm not lying, even though I'm biased, right? And I think the thing about return on investment in this capacity is I think some people have come from the school of like, I want to do this cheap, or their capital capacity is low. And, I come to the point too, where like there are lower cost providers out there. And when people call me like, why is your price where it is? And I'm like, hey, I'm actually glad there's providers out there that charge less, that fit your budget. I am an advocate for everybody to succeed. If you get stuck over there, come back here. I always want you to be able to come back. I don't want to create any tension, and selling to me creates tension. And I just hope that everybody makes the right decision. I think even my coming on here and talking about this is just saying, hey, look, understand the stakes, make a good decision. We're here if you need us. But if you think you can do it by yourself, go ahead.